Welcome everyone, hope you all had a great day today and welcome to today's video. Today's video we'll be going over a engineer run on Eclipse. Now let's go over ideas, thought processes during the run, and just general ideas, and hopefully you'll get some valuable information on that and hopefully also some entertainment value. So yeah. Before we get started, if I look a little bit roughed up, that's because I was busy for this entire day working on cybersecurity policies for college stuff, so casual multi-page assignments that are way more complex than essays, so real fun. But yeah, sorry this kind of video took a little bit while to get out. I did another recording of this, but I was incredibly tired, so it was awful. And next day I was like, oh yeah, this thing's awful, so we're doing this again. And hopefully I'll be a little bit less busy with college stuff. Hopefully I'll be able to get the cybersecurity classes in order and all that stuff. So yeah. Hopefully I'll be able to get all that sorted, and I'll be able to make videos more on schedule and more, not with like random time in between uploads and all that stuff. So hopefully I'll be able to get all that figured out soonish. So I do apologize for that, and hopefully I'll just try my best to work on it in the future, and hopefully I'll be able to get everything together. So yeah, apologies for that. But before we get into the run, we should talk about the abilities. So, first ability we'll talk about today is Bouncing Grenades. Charge up to 8 grenades that deal 100% damage each. Pretty decent overall for a primary attack on paper. Problem is though, it is actually very clunky in practice because first off, you have to charge it up, which is not instant like Railgunner's tracking rounds or Huntress's primary attack. It takes a second for it to charge up, and the bouncing grenades have travel time, pretty significant travel time, and they have spread. Well, not shotgun spread, but more just general, like, they come out in like a cone arc almost, where it's not that wide of a spread, but it's wide enough where you could possibly miss stuff. And while they will bounce, obviously, off terrain, very often, enemies in Risk Green 2, as you probably all know, are either flying, fast, or small, and often a mix of, of the three. So, charging up to hit a wisp, for example, combined with charging up and possibly not doing anything else while you're doing so, if you don't have a test floor, for example, that constantly deal damage to nearby enemies or anything like that, like, you charge up bouncing grenades, all 8 shots or 8 projectiles in a single burst of the ability. You go for a wisp and half of a miss because the wisp moves all of a sudden, and combined with a spread and travel time, you miss half your shots, and that's like 50% effectiveness for for the attack. It's not great. So but this is pretty good against large heavy targets, but targets that move on the ground like stone tines, for example. But it's very janky, it's very clunky, and very often it's very ineffective, like not effective against anything that's like really problematic. Because the main problem most of the time in Risk Rain 2 runs is Wisp flying past Mithrix, like fast, relatively small moving targets. Because usually the big targets that move around very slowly are often pretty easy to take down most of the time. So it's really, you're just trying to go after the smaller stuff that's a lot more dangerous. So bouncing grenade is very good against the bigger stuff, but very often this other stuff just outperforms it in most situations. Which is a shame because it's a very nice idea on paper, but unfortunately, unless you're going for a bleed build or a symbiotic scorpion build where you on hit, per hit you get an effect out of it, then in that case it'll be pretty good. But even still, like, it may not be the greatest ever due to its relatively unreliable range and accuracy. But unless you're going for like a bleed build or some other build that is based off of per hit, it's not really effective, which is a shame. But hey, not all characters are best at everything, so I guess that engineer's primary attack is a little bit mediocre. By the way, I'm not saying it's bad, it's more just mediocre, underwhelming. And also, before we get into the other abilities, because they all have side grades, I'm not saying you should play one more or the other, play how you want, and if you make things work, great. That's wonderful. So just play how you want, and yeah, this is my just general ideas. If you want to go with them, then go right ahead. If not, fine. Play how you want, and if you're able to get everything working with it, great. That's perfect. So yeah, just general thoughts. Take it with a pinch of salt because I'm terrible at this game, and just have zero brain cells overall because I often have to stay up to 4 a.m. in the morning for college work. So don't trust what I'm saying at all. That's what I'm saying, roughly. So yeah, secondary ability, Spider Mine. So this is a side grade to the Other Mine ability Engineer has. And the Other Mine ability is you place a mine on the ground, and after a few seconds, increases its area effect and damage. And Spider Mines, and the first mine does not move at all. It's a stationary mine that either explodes or just sits there after it's fully charged. That's pretty much it. Spider Mines place a robot mine that deals 600% damage when an enemy walks nearby, and both of them can place up to 4, so basically the same in that aspect. But Spider Mines, they actually move, unlike the Other Mine ability, which means that first off, they don't charge up. They're always constant 600% damage, unlike the Other Mines, which is a little more unreliable in terms of damage because you have to wait for it to charge up. And usually how it goes is, you do this in a Mithrix fight, he spawns a bunch of Lunar Chimera, they charge you and go for the mines, take all the damage, and before you're able to put another minefield down, Mithrix runs through and rams his mallet up your arse. So, yeah. Not the most reliable in a fast-paced combat scenario. Spider Mines, however, are proactive rather than defensive measures of the Air Mines, or more stationary one. I guess stationary because they don't move. Spider Mines actually, move, so they're a little more proactive. And Spider Mines, when they don't explode, when they're they don't explode in like an area effect AoE damage. When an enemy walks into their area effect, I guess is the best way to put it, they instead get up and charge the enemy. So they'll run straight after them. By the way, the pathfinding the Spider Mines is not the greatest. If there's a wall in the way, they will often get stuck. So, bit of a shame there. But if, like a beetle walks into their area effect, they'll get up and charge a beetle. And when they reach your target, they will explode. However, another great thing about these mines, Spider Mines that is that if they don't reach their target in time, they go right back down and wait for a new target to wander into range. So if you manage to, say, get a beetle with bouncy grenades or something, you'll just go back to the ground and wait for another target. And another great thing about Spider Mines is, unlike the regular stationary mines, they can actually be a lot more effectively placed on walls, because, say, for a wisp, like, you put them on a wall and a wisp comes by, and the wisp is a little bit too far away for the Other Mine to effectively explode. And you have to, it's kind of a little bit finicky in terms of, 3D space and all that stuff, and, wisps tend to not get near, walls that much half the time, because very often it's while maps are pretty wide open, the Spider Mine has a very good chance of noticing the wisp and jumping off the wall or wedge, if you place it up there, right into its face and explode. So depending on how you put the Spider Mine, it can actually go into aerial units and be relatively effective. So yeah, pretty good. So, and also, again, the Spider Mine, unlike the Other Mine, is a lot more consistent in its damage, so you don't have to wait for it to charge up. You place it down, does 600% damage, ready to go. So pretty good in that aspect. And as a side note, backup magazines increase the maximum amount of mines you can have. So, pretty decent. So, if you get a bunch of, it does not decrease the cooldown, but it does increase the amount of times you're able to throw down mines in a bigger minefield, and it gives you a bigger reservoir of mine charges, or, mine ability charges to use. So, pretty decent if you just want to make a giant minefield and just blow up with Stone Titan in 2 seconds. So, if that's your thing, go right ahead. Next is Thermal Harpoon. So this is in the same slot as, it's a side grade, or it's a side grade different option for the, where shield is. engineer shield, that is. Because there's, health shield and there's the engineer shield, so yeah. So, thermal harpoons enter target pain mode and launch heat-seeking harpoon missiles that do 500% damage each, can store up to 4. So, basically consider these the green missile item in terms of properties. They walk onto a target, or they choose a target and they go after it. If they hit them, they do damage, they are heat-seeking, and if the target dies before they reach, they redirect to another target. And you're able to manually paint them, and they're very long range, very proactive, very great against Wisp, flying pests, small targets, as well as bigger targets, as well like bosses, because they actually do pretty decent damage. Like, it's 100% less damage than a mine, and you have 4 of them stationary, 4 charges ready to go, and, launch them out in an instant, so, yeah, pretty good. And they're, great against, like, they're very helpful since bouncing grenades and spire mines aren't the best against AoE units, like Wisp, flying pests, the flying Woomer Chimera, so these are great anti-air, abilities, so pretty solid overall. And they're a lot more proactive than the shield, because the shield is very good for blocking stuff and protecting yourself. However, very often it's probably better just to keep on moving around and just trying to dodge everything rather than staying in one place. And while the shield can definitely save you, I feel like the thermal harpoon has a lot more higher performance cap. It's the best way to put it. Like, you're just able to move around, do a lot more damage, and if you're able to burst stuff down, then they won't shoot you, so you don't need a shield. So, Risk of Rain is, I noticed as I played, Eclipse, is you shoot the guy first so they don't shoot you back, and you worry about defense later. So, that's kind of how I kind of view Risk of Rain 2. Just shoot first, don't care about defense, because they're already dead. So, yeah. But yeah, like, shield is pretty good too, especially with stationary turrets, which we'll get into shortly. But since I'm going with the movement, running turrets, we'll get into that shortly. I just feel thermal harpoons is pretty good, but if you want to do stationary turrets and want to go for a more defensive type of build, shield is definitely an option that you may want to go for. Next, we have turrets. Oh, before I forget, thermal harpoons, the hyperdrive red item increases the maximum charges, so you're able to stock up to more charges. And the pocket rocket item, the ICMB, the pocket red item, the rocket red item that boosts all your rockets, including the green rocket item and anything that classifies as a rocket. It also counts thermal harpoons as rockets, because they're basically the same thing as the green rocket item. So you're able to get triple. With, the first stack of that red item will give you triple thermal harpoons, so tripling the effectiveness of each charge, pretty solid. And you increase the damage with each extra stack as well, so yeah, pretty good. So yeah, if you get the rocket item or the other red item that increases charges for this ability slot, pretty good. Can really perform really well. Carbonizer turret. So this is a side grade to the stationary turret. So, of course, we all know the Bungus stationary turret strat. However, I feel like that isn't as great anymore compared to as it was before, just because this expansion has added a lot of stuff that can instantly kill stuff a lot faster, and a lot of stuff is added to the game that can really shred stationary turrets. Because, for example, the Lunar Chimera orb guys, the roly-poly guys as I like to call them, the guys that explode into fire AoE damage zones when they die, or the mushrooms that shoot spore AoE damage areas on the ground. If a stationary turret's in them, they're pretty much either going to die or pretty much go to like 10% health, because they hit like trucks if you stay in them. That's why they're designated AoE areas, because they do a lot of damage. So yeah, if you're staying in them the entire time, it's gonna hurt a lot. So yeah, stationary turrets are not very good against that, and very often Void Reavers, Void Jailers, and other instant kill effects are wide enough in the game that stationary turrets are not really effective, because they'll just soak up all damage and they can't hope to dodge it, or at the very least make it difficult for them to shoot them, or make it difficult for enemies to shoot them. So Carbonizer turrets, in my opinion, sure, they lose the Bungus strat, but they move around, and they're actually able to somewhat make it difficult for enemies to hit them, especially if you give them a few movement speed items, because of course, turrets inherit your items. So, pretty solid. Now let's get on to the actual offensive. Now we got on from the reason I chose it for movement reasons, but let's get on to offensive reasons. So, carbonizer turret's kind of worse than the other stationary turret for offensively, because the Wazer is sort of 200% damage per second and slows enemies down, but it is very janky, I guess is the best way to put it. Like, it often can't really shoot aerial units. It has a little bit of trouble, like, walking on. Like, the stationary turret just rolls around and just shoots stuff out of the sky, just spins around, swivels around, and just shoots stuff. The carbonizer turret is moving around. The Wazer, it feels a little less responsive sometimes. I don't know why, but maybe it's my personal experience, but the Wazer overall is a little bit less effective against aerial units, so very good against bosses if you just plop them. If you plop them right next to a boss, they'll do damage, but the movement, carbonizer turrets tend to be a little bit janky with aerial units, where the stationary turrets tend to just blast them out of the sky immediately. And yeah, it's just very odd sometimes. So if you have trouble with aerial units, possibly stationary turrets may be a little bit better, but the reason I do like carbonized turrets for charge reasons, because both turrets can have up to 2 charges or 2 active turrets at the same time. Now this is not a hard cap, as Y-Stat Cell can increase it to 3 on the first stack, which is the void item for equipment cell, and you can only do it once, so you can only have up to 3 turrets, but additional Y-Stat cells will increase the maximum amount of charges you can have in reservoir, as a rough way to put it, of extra turrets ready to plop down once the other ones die, or you want to replace them to make sure to get the new items. So Y-Stat cell can increase them up to 3. Like, that's the hard cap as far as I know for engineered turrets, unless there's some weird interaction that can happen. And yeah. And also another red item interaction, drone parts interacts with turrets, because they are turrets, so this can actually be really useful for carbonizer turrets, because they get the chain gun from drone parts, which means that they're basically a combination of the stationary turret, and so basically you get the benefits of the stationary turret's gun and be able to shoot stuff out of the sky and just be reliable damage, as well as the movement of the carbonizer turret. So drone parts is pretty good. And also, drone parts is very good also for engineered turrets, because unlike the drones or, gunner turrets you buy, occasionally through stages, these turrets actually have your items, so the chain gun that this drone part item will give them is just way more powerful, because it's basing a lot of its attributes based off your items, because the engineered turrets get, engineers' items, so pretty solid. But yeah, like, again, your turret is pretty solid. Like, it makes sense that the movement turret has a little bit less offensive power, because then why would you ever want a stationary one? But I feel like very often just because you don't need to. Also, another great thing about moving turrets is you don't need to constantly plop more of them down. Just, you put one down and it follows you around, not like the stationary turret, which you put them down, they stay there, and if you have to move to another area of the stage, say you're in the open area of, like the left side of Sky Meadows, and then you have to move over to the right side of Sky Meadows, the turret won't follow if it's the stationary one. You have to waste the charge getting another one down. Well, the movement turret will at the very least try and follow you, so pretty good in that respect, since then you're able to have more charges and backup in case you lose some. So both are pretty good, but I personally see the movement option of the carbonizer turret as way more effective. So I believe that is all I wish to talk about for the abilities. Yes, it is. Good. Alright, so let's get on to the run, and yeah, we'll just talk about my general thoughts about the run, and just let's go on from now. Let's actually get into the run itself and the meat of this video, I guess you can say. Yeah, it's currently like 4:30 in the 4:30 in the morning, so a little bit tired, but a lot better than last time I tried to make this video. So let's just see how we go from here. So again, hope you enjoyed the rest of the video, and let's get into the run. Apologies for the sudden cut. I accidentally turned up OBS, so let's start recording for a sec. So get that back on. let's actually get into the run itself, and I'll just talk about general thoughts and opinions and my thought process and some, and our ideas. So hopefully getting some actual useful information out of this. So let's get started. Distant Roost, not a bad area overall. Pretty solid. The Topaz Brooch printer isn't really that great, in my personal opinion. Just because usually white items are a little more proactive than barrier, but it's still decent. A lot better than War Banner printer, for example. And yeah, the Harpoon is performing really well. It does high, long range, high damage. Great overall. So I see a Mountain Shrine. Now there's no reason for me to not pick it up, because usually in Eclipse runs, if you die in the first stage, who cares? You can start another one, so I feel Mountain Shrines are pretty easy to simply just use on first stage, because if you get something good out of them, pretty good, and if you die, you try again, so. Or that's my general thought process on that. Now we have equipment, barrel, and a shrine, as well as several large chests. I go for the equipment, just hoping I get like a movement-based item, say Chrysalis, but I got Ground Accumulator, which is not bad. Like, it's pretty high damage, great burst damage overall. Pretty terrible for dealing with like general stage fodder, but if you want, if you have a Void Seed or just a boss you don't like, great overall, great burst damage. Now, there's a Scrapper over there, which I'm pretty sure I did not see. I don't remember seeing it, but yeah. If I forgot about it, then that'll be a little bit embarrassing, but hey. So, yeah. And fun fact, this was one of the hardest runs to record, so I think this is like the second day worth of runs. So yeah, I was pretty tired from all this. So yeah, and problem of engineer is that he has no movement abilities at all, so you require a lot of movement speed to avoid a lot of attacks, including Mithrix's fire wave attacks. So not great. Now we got Transcendence, increases our max health and turns it on shields. Very good item, because first off, fall damage is based off your regular health. The regular red, health you start off with, like. So, because shield doesn't count for your fall damage and all that stuff, so for some reason, which I'm not really sure why, but hey. But yeah, like, you only have one natural, like, normal health, and fall damage is based off that, so you can only do like one fall damage, so lethal fall damage no longer a thing, and also you just get way more health to just simply tank stuff, so able to avoid permanent damage a lot more. Now, Shuriken's great for turrets, since they're able to effectively shoot flying enemies a lot better, since they don't have to directly rely on the laser. And yeah, not the greatest RNG for Balance Shrine, because 2 Beetle Queens are pretty bad, because you get double the Beetle Guard, which are pretty nasty, because they are very able to swarm you. In combination with 2 Golems are trying to like blow my head off, or 3. Yeah, I think it's 3 now. 3 Golems. Yeah, 3 Golems. Yeah, they're just gonna swarm me, or gonna try to at the very least, and yeah, it can be very dangerous if you just don't have good movement speed or good terrain to simply disperse them or stagger their movement a little bit. Like, that rock there is great, just jump up and down, so yeah. And we almost die for 2 Up on Daisies, an item that is basically worthless because all my health is now shield, so isn't that lovely? But yeah, like, that rock there is my main savior basically, because I can just jump up, jump it, on top of it, and the Beetle Guards can't effectively get up there. Like, they can, but as you saw there, but it staggers are moving a little bit. And another great thing, as you probably saw on a Beetle Guard, is that the mines can actually go on enemies, and they can actually go on turrets and drones. So you basically just put a few mines on the drone and let it fly around, and when it comes in contact with a boss, it just drops off its payload. So yeah, little murder drones, I guess you could say, or self-propelled missiles, or I guess they're kind of self-propelled missiles, because they probably won't die when they come into contact with enemies, because drones are pretty weak if they get in the crosshairs of anything. But yeah, turns out just putting a bunch of mines on a drone or a turret is actually pretty solid, because it actually protects them, because if enemy gets too close, which is usually pretty bad for them, the turret or mine will drop off, or turret or drone will drop off its payload, and yeah, it actually could protect it. So in some cases it's a little bit too tricky to do, because hitboxes are a little bit finicky about the mine and what it clings to. So it's a little bit weird, but it's definitely an option. So we got a wax coil, pretty solid. Great movement item. Basically it just helps us move around a lot faster, and I'm just kind of just moving around this area and just seeing if we're able to find anything useful. Because again, any item could be a red item, or any chest could include a red item, so, and in this case we found a equipment, barrel, or chest. Pretty good. And also I'm just kind of looking around just in case there's a void cradle, because those void items are universally just pretty solid. So I chose missile launcher over Prion for several reasons, as it may seem a little bit weird because Prion does a lot more damage. Missile has interaction with the pocket, ICMB, the red missile item. And also, it's just way easier to use overall. It has a lot shorter cooldown, and it's heat seeking, so it goes after flying enemies a lot more with flying pass. So it's just very effective. I just need to get them away from me or take down a few of them around me so I'm able to flee, or just if I'm able to, while I'm running around, just activate to get some extra damage in without worrying about aiming. So pretty good overall. And I just view it as a lot more useful than the royal capacitor, because royal capacitor can miss easily because it's swiped away. So if it's enemies fast enough, and enemies could be fast enough with a 50% movement speed increase on Eclipse to dodge the actual lightning strike. So we're on Aphelion Sanctuary, pretty good. Love this area, wide open. Not with the swamp or aqueduct, you're able to just see the entire map, figure out where everything is, and just make a plan off that. Wonderful, wonderful stage. And we got gasoline in the last stage, which is pretty good. Great AoE. The more I get of them, and I saw a multi-shop with another gasoline, and the reason I'm staying around here is the more gasolines I get, the better they're going to be, because the more AoE they get, the more damage you get, because it stacks burn damage and AoE. And yeah, the more I get, the better you're going to be, so it exponentially gets better and better. Because it's a wider area, more damage you stack, and just it scales very well. Like, it's probably one of the best AoE. It's one of the best AoE things in the game, so pretty good. Focus crystal is pretty good because the turrets may just charge stuff occasionally, like they go straight into AoE sometimes. Like, the funniest thing is turrets, even though they're supposed to walk around and avoid AoE things like the mushrooms and all that stuff, they tend to just walk into them anyways. So Focus Crystal is pretty good when they just walk right into a Void Reaper, for example. So, but yeah, it's a little bit not worth risking their gasoline, or exclusive gamer of gasoline, not worth it. You got another Wept on Daisy, which is also useless. Love the RNG. Great RNG to just run. But yeah, like, this is why I like the missile launcher equipment. It got rid of 2 rats, and that would help out. That would Koi Templar, pretty good. And then it, combination with the harpoon just help deal with the flying pest. Very dangerous enemies overall. Now you may notice I'm not really using bouncing grenade not that much. It's because it's because it's not really strong enough and kind of mediocre. I just find it a lot better to focus more on harpoons and mines and all that stuff rather than the actual, I'm still going to use it, but it's more of a thing to go in between the air attacks rather than something I rely on for actual damage, because right now I have no real benefit because of using it, because besides Needle Tick there's no real benefit to me hitting multiple times. It's I'm way more encouraged to do harpoons and mines because they do a lot more damage, burst damage that is, in a short amount of time. Where mines is a little bit finicky. And we got Plasma Shrimp. So Plasma Shrimp turns all shield into pink shield, and as long as you have pink shield or void shield, you have little missiles come out that go after targets similar to the green item, the green rocket item, which is the void corruption item of that. And yeah, if you have your own entire health bar of shield, being shield, you just get infinite missiles, shrimp missiles. So very good. Got another Trite Dagger, great. Needle takes up to 20%, boss damage up to 20% additional damage, pretty good. And sticky grenade, pretty solid because it goes off total damage and sure does go off 5% at a time. but that could really help. So, and another great thing about Shrimp is every single time it goes off, it could proc more stuff because there's a proc coefficient. So, it is a great thing overall. Because if you're going to shrunk like straight burst damage, the green missile is a lot better because you're just able to get so much damage off. Like 3 green missile items is like 900% damage. And if you have like a bunch of other stacking damage buffs and all that stuff, it just scales really heavily. So that's why it's so good with Railgunner. But for and you know, Manta Shrimp is still great for Railgunner as well, just not nearly as high rolly. But Shrimp is just great also for just any run where you just constantly do like small bits of damage, because every single time you hit, you proc Shrimp and you get some extra damage in and extra chance to proc stuff. Now I went for Mocha mainly because movement speed and attack speed is pretty good, mostly the movement speed. Because movement speed is pretty rare half the time, and since I have no abilities to actually, you know, I don't have Huntress of Blink, for example, or Railgunner's Mind to push me around, so movement speed is all I got, so in terms of like actually moving around effectively, so yeah, like taking movement speed immediately is just kind of a given. It's just so useful. It makes stages go faster, which helps make sure I get to Mithrix faster, and make sure the moon area has less elites in it, perfected elites, pretty good, and makes Mithrix have less health overall, and damage overall. Pretty solid, because it allows me to burst them down faster. Medkit, not great when our health is all shield, and an actual shield. Pretty decent, you know, extra armor, not bad. Actually, armor items are overall pretty solid, because the more armor stacks you have in like negative or like positive, the less effective they are. So like 1,000 armor will be less effective per armor stack than 10 armor stacks, for example. So the more you get in either positive or negative, the worse they're going to be, like in terms of being effective. So getting like small like armor items here and there can actually be can be a big deal, but they tend to stack pretty poorly because, you know, armor, the more you increase it by, you know, the higher or lower you exponentially increase it, exponentially each stack gets, you know, in terms of like being less effective. But yeah, like Harpoon is wonderful against these yeah, as you saw, I missed with both of those grenades against a flying pest, so that's why I really don't like them, or not really a big fan of the bouncing grenade. Just because then when you're moving around, you don't want to die, and the last thing you're trying to do is accurately hit stuff with the bouncing grenade with its spread and, you know, projectile speed and all that stuff. It's just better to use a harpoon or rely on your turrets or something else to focus on flying enemies. Scorch Acres, actually one of my favorite areas. Visually, I love it, and I don't know why, I just like it. So I know that's probably not really a popular opinion from what I heard, but, you know, yeah, I like the area. So, we have a Void Cradle, pretty good. Because Void Cradle items are overall is pretty good. And yeah, like, pick down the list, no problem. Pretty solid. And we're up to 875 max health. And of course, we reduced it by a bit from the permanent damage, but hey, like, that's a lot of health early on, so Transcendence is definitely doing work, and now we have Y-Stat Cell, so now we can have up to a maximum of 3 turrets. Of course, we can't go higher than that if we get in our Y-Stat Cell stack, but any more stacks we get of that, we'll have extra charges of turret, you know, the turret ability in our, you know, reservoir of abilities, so ability charges, so if one of them dies, we are more easily able to get a new one, because we have an extra charge ready to go, or charging up in the background, so pretty solid. Great item overall for an engineer. Of course, you can't go to the Volcanic Egg moon skip if you don't have equipment cell, because you need 2 of them to effectively get up to Mithrix's arena, because, you know, you have to do Volcanic Egg, then Volcanic Egg to get up half of the distance to arena, so yeah. That's why I didn't go for after Volcanic Egg. But, you know, that's something to keep note of, so you're basically trading in the ability to more easily have a better chance of skipping the moon stage going straight to Mithrix in exchange for being a lot better in combat, which I think is a pretty fair trade most of the time. Now I took the armor plate because not only is it deal with damage over time effects like that bleed I just got affected by. I just tried to re-roll that for another Transcendence because Transcendence is every stack increasing your maximum health. Great overall. Got another Mocha, great movement speed and attack speed. But I took the armor plate because a lot of damage over time effects, a lot of, like, there's a lot of effects where it's a lot of small hits in very quick succession, and armor plates is very good against them. The Winter Chimera, the fuck that fly, Imps, Templars, very hard countered by armor plate because it reduces so much damage. And we're starting to get a lot of Mochas now, which is kind of funny when I said earlier that speed item, like movement speed items are a little bit rare. Turns out if you just get a little bit lucky, stuff goes well, which is kind of a problem with Eclipse runs because the higher you go in Eclipse, the harder it's going to be to effectively get a good run going because like the more Eclipse modifiers you get, like the harder it is to simply push through with mediocre items just because there's so much stuff stacked against you. You can still do it, but it can be a little bit rough. Got crit, so 10% chance to do double damage. Pretty solid. Imp Overlord, so if we get Shadow Spleen, for example, we'll be in pretty good shape, but yeah, like as you see here, like triple turrets going after this guy is pretty solid because they all have shrimp going off. And yeah, try to get greedy. Don't be greedy with Harpoon. Harpoon's pretty good. And I got Squid Pop, which is still pretty good because it gives me a meat, a meat shield essentially. It take hits from me, so it's still pretty good. But yeah, Hunter's Harpoon and Squid Pop are both pretty decent. Squid Pop is great for getting extra meat shield out, and speed is always good. And I just kind of got a little bit lazy here. Don't be lazy. You could easily die here. You just get very unlucky with some spawn stuff, so don't be like me. Constantly move around, be on your toes. The more you move around, the harder it is for stuff to hit you. I'm keeping the key around so I can recycle it later, since I feel I can get a little bit more lucky than getting a possibility of getting their bad item later on, and their green item with bad, Squid Pop or something else. Like, not a Squid Pop, but Squid Pop isn't bad, but, I was hoping to get a little better effective white items like goat hooves and stuff, and I got a Mocha, which Mochas are half of a syringe and a goat hoof, so technically right now I have 2 syringes and 2 goat hooves, so that's pretty decent. But yeah, it's like keys are like a little bit gambly and RNG based, so it's just better to try and get a little bit extra value out of them right now, because if you die before the key, you're able to use the key, then it really did nothing for you. So, and I got lucky with Mocha, so that's pretty good. Now, Cautious Slug's normally very good. Natural regeneration increase is pretty solid. Helps deal with 50% reduced healing, but since I don't have any, my health is shield entirely, healing doesn't really matter that much. So I got another Mocha. Great luck overall. Like, this is beyond lucky RNG, by the way. And I took the Monster Tooth Orb because I'm not waiting around for another charge of Printer. I'm just going straight to the next stage, because I'm fine with a little bit less inefficiency in terms of items and, in exchange for being a little bit faster. So, yeah. Because speed is a big thing. Like, so we got Dios, essentially. Like, Larva is essentially the void version of Dios. Pretty good. So, yeah, and I always choose this thing over, like, safer spaces or anything else, because I didn't do that once, and I died because of it, and lost a run, Eclipse run on it, Always, Dios is good, even the void version of it, so always keep that in mind. So, yeah, but, Eclipse runs are kind of a weird mix between speed and item quality, so you have to kind of play this game a little bit to kind of feel like how good your items are in comparison to your time, so it's kind of a weird thing, but like once you play the game a little bit, you'll kind of understand, like, okay, now I can do the boss, okay, now I should go because there's nothing worth grabbing immediately right now. I should go now because I can't grab anything without wasting a significant amount of time. So it's kind of that thing. It's like you're kind of just seeing how much good items you can get within a time frame that is reasonable. That's the best way I could put it, honestly. But yeah, and also another great thing about Larva is that it'll turn my crit into Sears Glasses, which is not normally that great, but since Mithrix is Winter Chimera in the third phase, not the second phase. The second phase they're technically the boss, and also got an armor piece around, so it's up to 60% damage against bosses. Extra damage. But Sears Glasses will affect Mithrix's Winter Chimera in the third phase of this fight. Not the second phase, because they're technically the boss, they're a horde of many, essentially. But in the third phase, I'm able to one-shot them, which is pretty good, because Mithrix in that phase can be pretty nasty, because, you know, the Winter Chimera during that phase can get you, then the Fire Wave attack from Mithrix can get you, which will kill you. And it's like, and vice versa, Mithrix can hit you, then the Winter Chimera will get you. Like, I had both situations happen, like, Winter Chimera to Mithrix and Mithrix to Winter Chimera. But both cases happened in my experience, and both cases led to a death, so not great. Got Syringe, because Syringe is very good, helps increase attack speed overall, makes everything a lot more efficient, and it helps deal with a little bit of clunkiness from the grenade, bouncy grenade, so it makes that a little more efficient as well. Now I hear first off, energy drink printer, not really necessary, because I actually do prefer mochas, because attack speed, and also we got a goat hoof, so that's technically a little bit better than, that's a little bit better in my opinion than energy drink. Got another goat hoof, and Death Mark, which is a little bit unreliable because of debuffs are a little bit hard to get by in a limited amount of time, so you know it's very unlikely you're able to proc Death Mark in a Eclipse run. But I hear a Magma Worm, and I want to try and lure him, you know, towards me, so I'm able to deal with him out, you know, risking him charging me during a teleport event, which, because this area is so, you know, closed in, that him bursting through a wall could be a big deal, so, yeah. But yeah, like, this is pretty good movement speed overall. Like, Engineer is very reliant on movement speed, and the energy drink printer was pretty good, but getting to goat hooves and 5 mochas, I think, like, energy drinks are just not worth it overall trying to print, because you have a better chance of losing some pretty good items. And we already got speed items, so we don't need to, like, give away anything, so. But if we didn't have speed items, I would try and hopefully try and get, you know, some items to trade in that I don't want into speed items, because speed items are very important for Mithrix's Fire Wave attack, because that can easily one-shot you most of the time. And we got second I keep on calling it mantis, a second shrimp. Shrimps are very good because every time you get a new stack, it increases the damage of the missile. And since it comes out every single time you hit something, the damage you do is astounding. So, yeah. Increasing shrimp damage is like the best thing you can do a good portion of time. Just so much damage. And also additional gasoline, you know, as we said before, exponentially increases in effectiveness. Great overall. Just great anyway. So, yeah, as you see, if I can just enclose space, everyone's getting hit by gasoline, and it does do a lot of damage. And I didn't do the shuriken because I don't want to have a second shuriken on, so it's a little bit. Like, one shuriken's enough for the turrets to actually hit stuff in the air reliably, but don't need any more. And I got Little Wisp, helps deal with, you know, it's another on death effect, pretty solid, and helps burst stuff down a little bit better. So, and we have a fun case of a glass contraption stuck in a wall, so I was a little bit scared there that it was going to be invincible and I couldn't hit him, but thankfully he came out, so I didn't have to worry about him not being able to be hit from, you know, not being able to hit him, but he's able to hit me, so thankfully that did not happen. But interesting whole situation, and it happened again, so I guess when they spawn there, it just caused a little bit of weird thing with the collision. It's very odd. But yeah, turrets are just very effective. Now, I'm definitely going for a red item because I have enough money to do so, but if you, say, for example, don't have enough speed items or enough damage items, it's honestly more better to simply just go for everything else on the stage than try your luck with a red item, because I have a printer, so I'm able to re-roll it, but very often you try and go for damage with a red item instead of going after 20 chests, for example, depending on, you know, how much money you get. So instead of getting, like, you know, going for 20 chests, which can have a decent red item or decent damage items in them, you go for a red chest and you try and go for damage, and you get Death Plant, which is not bad, but you know, you go for damage and you didn't get lucky with the red chest, so you just wasted a bunch of money essentially. But with Printer, I get Ben's raincoat, which I don't need damage, so thankfully that's pretty good. But I'm able to get a little bit extra health and avoid debuffs, which goes for my turrets as well, so pretty good. But yeah, like, say for example, like, you know, we have like 1,000 money. It's better to go for 5 chests and get a little bit overall better stuff on average than trying to wait like the RNG master and just get very lucky with 1 red chest, because you could get very good stuff. You also could get very good, you know, get very bad stuff for your build overall. So, or for what current situation requires. So that's a better way to put it. When no red item really is that bad. It just some are better, others and better, you know, some situations. So got a little bit greedy, turned a syringe into a stun grenade. Not great, but honestly, stun grenades are not that bad. So pretty happy with that. Like, it's a stun effect. It could help out a little bit, just to stagger some stuff. But yeah, there we go. And also, forgot to mention, Razor Wire, great for Engineer, because his turrets will get hit by stuff a lot. Because they'll be able to, with movement turrets, they'll, you know, the waste turrets, they'll move around, but they'll still get hit occasionally, so it's always good to give them a little extra kick with Razor Wire, because whenever they get hit, they deal damage to enemies nearby, so that could really help clear out stuff. And help deal with stuff around turrets. Now here's the Void Seed, and we got very unlucky. We got a Void Romarian and that's a Void Jailer, so the Shrimp guy. He is terrifying. He's able to pull you closer to him, he has a shotgun, and he's able to immobilize you. He is absolutely terrifying. And yeah, like, Void guys can be very dangerous, because, you know, they have the Safer Spaces ability, they have Needle Tick, they have the Collapse. Like, you could easily die to these guys, and it could be very nasty, so yeah. And also you should go immediately after Void Parasites, because if you go after, say, a boss, for example, you spawn a Teleport boss, a Void Parasite could go onto the guy and make him just absolute pain to get through. So, or, you know, a Souls Pro, for example, spawns naturally in the stage. Like, you should kill the parasites before you latch onto them, or anything more dangerous. You know, just clear them out immediately. Old Guillotine's pretty good for Void Elites, because they are elites, so, you know, you can deal with them faster. Pretty solid. Another great thing about mine is you're able to throw them off a wedge and not go into line of sight, so I was able to chuck them off an edge and deal with that Void enemy without, you know, risking their retaliating against me. I could have used, you know, Bungus and tried to re-roll it, but I was just too busy just trying not to die, so I just kind of just grabbed it and accepted it. But yeah, there's the pole, and I think that was the shotgun, or maybe immobilized. I'm not sure. I usually just go for a strategy of avoid him at all costs and not. Yeah, there's a pole. I think. Yeah, I just usually avoid those guys at all costs. So I'd prefer to just avoid them and just not try and, you know, get shot by them. So yeah. But yeah, another problem with them is that they actively go after certain targets with their explosions, so they're actually able to aim it. Very dangerous, because if you're immobilized, for example, in a freeze effect, they can instantly kill you, because they'll be able to walk onto you, and if you're in the frozen from a freezing elite, it can be pretty bad, because you won't be able to move fast enough to get out of their tracking. So we re-rolled that for Seer's Glasses, because Key is a little bit not great. I was hoping to get another, say, Shrimp or something else a little more proactive than Key, which Key is very good in normal stages, but next stage is Moon stage, so not great. And I chose Watts Seer's Glasses and just accepted that I'm not going to get, you know, the Maker Glasses, because very effective for one-shotting stuff. One-shots the stuff on the Moon stage, one-shot the Souls Pro, but being able to possibly one-shot stuff on the Moon stage, for example, and during the Mithrix fight is just so great, because it saves so much time, it saves so much possible permanent life loss, so pretty good. Now, I didn't get lucky at all. I should have not greeted there, but I just took it. Just, you know, I was hoping to get a little bit lucky and just being really greedy, so we didn't get lucky there. We got Weeping Fungus, pretty much useless. Bison Steak though is pretty good because it's based, you know, it's adding extra maximum health, so of course Transcendence, and it's just gonna be very great with that stuff, so pretty good. Yeah, maximum health is pretty good with Transcendence, who knew? But yeah, like, even with a bunch of maximum health loss, we still have 951 maximum health, even with the permanent health loss and all that stuff, so we're doing pretty good right now. Like, Infusion is great, just turn like increasing our health by so much. And I put Power Elixir again because I was a little bit rushing a little bit. Ignition Tank is amazing because, you know, Gasoline exponentially getting better. Now damage is just amazing now, so yeah, Gasoline's now very strong. Like, even with one Gasoline, Ignition Tank's worth it. With 3, Ignition Tank is cataclysmically powerful, and Crowbar is just great just to burst stuff down. So pretty good items overall. Now we have Grandpa. And Grandpa is not having a good time, is he? Yeah, oh my, Grandpa's not having a good time at all. Grandpa may try to summon a small star onto his mortal plane, but unfortunately for him, my ineffectual attempt to get out of the direct line of sight attack is ineffective, but the turrets did a job for me, so hey. Try to go a bit greedy again, but unfortunately regenerating scrap is pretty not good, since, yeah, there's no real green printers available, and those on the moon are pretty inefficient half the time, so not really worth regenerating scrap. But, you know, I could have gotten a missile, for example, which would have got corrupted into another shrimp, so it was worth a shot, because I was already pretty ahead, and another shrimp will just make me even more ahead and, like, do even more damage. So, you know, greed is good. Greed is good. Yeah, just constantly moving around, try not to get hit, because any moment now, a flaming brass contraption could just spawn out of nowhere and just try and one-tap me, because they can do that. I have seen them do it before, so yeah, just constantly be on the move, and hoping turrets will just take the aggro for me, because they're very good for taking aggro. It goes for stationary turrets as well, but turrets are just great for aggro. Just, you know, 10 enemies may be available to, you know, on the stage, and 4 of them will go after each turret if you have 2, and the other 3 will go after, or the other 2 will go after you, so. So yeah, just having turrets out, great aggro. You know, drawing aggro away from you is amazing in this game, because, you know, you could draw away a Romarian, for example, and that's kind of a big deal. I kind of, in our Mocha, for example, so we're now up to 3 goat hooves and 3 syringes worth of Mocha. Not bad. I took the mushroom just in case, for example, during the final phase of the Mithrix fight, we may need it for healing. So I just kind of took it. I just kind of accepted it. War Banner isn't that great, and I try to get a bit lucky with the equipment. Re-rolling, hopefully get Chrysalis to skip the moon stage and save time, because if you're able to because you're not gaining anything really for the moon stage. Like, unless you have like a chest or something else like that. Like, the moon stage is usually just a waste of time. It is a sink of time. Like, it just, you spend too much time on that and it doesn't get like anything in return, so not great. So just skipping it just saves time and helps Mithrix, you know, makes Mithrix level up less, and he scales less with health and all that stuff, so it's all good to get there as fast as possible, and, you know, as such, skip the moon stage. And we got Ukulele, so very good AoE item, and also if we ever die from the Larva, or while having the Larva, we now get Polywood because it corrupts all possible corruptible items, and Polywood's very good. 20% chance to hit a target 3 times for like 8% damage, total damage. I think that's the stat line, but yeah, like, total damage is just great, and 20% chance to hit a target a couple times for total damage, or percentage of total damage, is amazing. That's the same reason why Shrimp is so good, because constantly doing total damage, either with 1,000 cuts kind of strategy, or just railgun, or just one-shot and everything, very effective, just because you're just able to do so much damage. Because it turns out basing your damage off of all your modifiers and all your items, all that stuff, to, you know, do more damage with a different item is pretty good. So, yeah, who knew? Yeah, just kind of just wandering around right now, just trying to see if there's anything left. I see there's a printer up there, and I think it could be a green printer, or there could be something else up there. You know, actually I think it's a white item printer, but I just went up there to see if there's anything up there, because there could possibly be an item up there that gives me a red item, so, you know, it's worth a shot. And I'm already a little bit late. Like, normally I prefer to get the moon stage around 30 minutes in, but I just kind of just decided to go greed and just go for it. And we got Scythe, you know, it's 5% crit naturally, because the first Scythe gives you, first stack gives you 5% crit. So we have 5% crit naturally now, even without Windsmakers, so that's pretty decent. And we get a little extra healing from it, which is not useful, but it's more about the damage, so hey, it's something. Yeah, pretty decent item. I'd say that's worth it. 5% crit's pretty solid. But yeah, I'm like, this is very strong overall for a run for Engineer. We got a lot of damage, we got a lot of defense, and healing's not a big deal because Transcendence is essentially their healing. And we have a lot of health, 1,470 maximum health, or 1,471 I believe, because the one regular health is not included in that. A lot of maximum health, a lot of damage, and just great mobility, so yeah, because we're just able to focus on everything else besides healing, thanks to Transcendence basically just acting as our healing, because so long as you don't take damage within a few seconds after, you know, losing some health, it just regenerates all the shield back, so pretty solid. Now the main reason I want to get to the moon stage relatively fast is because the longer time it takes to get here, the more elites are going to be, and perfected winter elites are terrifying. They slow you down with the cripple debuff, they shoot out extra projectiles, and they are tanky. So thankfully we have the ability with Sears glasses to simply one-shot them. Since then it'll save a lot of time, and we have a lot less chance of simply messing up, and sometimes, and you know, the fight will, you know, it'll help stop fights from taking so long that we'll eventually make some mistakes and lose some health. And, you know, take permanent damage. Because it's more of a gauntlet, again, like, you're not getting any extra items here unless you have chest from Kier, for example. So, getting through this area as fast as possible, either through using a movement item like Base, Chrysalis, or Volcanic Egg. And we just got rid of a wheat for free, essentially with the Sears glasses, so that's amazing. Especially a Walker Elite, which are pretty tanky. And yeah, it's like, as I was saying, keys, like, unless you have like a key item or like some other like benefit for walking around a stage, like order shipment form, you know, the little drop pod for that thing. Like, unless you have those, it's not worth staying here at all, really, because very often the lunar 3D printers are not going to be that effective in terms of, like, you know, value trades and per items. And you don't have chests around here, so just you're not getting stronger, you're just getting weaker, because the whole game is still scaling, and you're getting no items. So yeah, getting through here as fast as possible is pretty good. So Sears glasses, one-shotting elites is amazing. So yeah, I kind of fell in love with Sears glasses over time. I initially thought, oh, it's terrible because you don't get crit, so you can't do a Mithrix fast enough, or most efficiently as possible, since, you know, 10% crit by itself is pretty strong. Again, double damage, pretty good. But it turns out this one-shotting moon, like, winter Chimera elites, this is amazing. It saves so much time, and this makes everything here a lot less risky if you don't get the equipment to skip this, you know, moon stage. And it helps deal with the third phase, because then the third phase, you know, the winter elites, or the winter Chimera spawn there, can have a chance to get one shots, so they're able to clear out some of the hordes, so we can only you only have to deal with Mithrix. So it's pretty good overall. Now we're starting off with the Ethereal Pillar, as I like to call it. I'm not sure what exact name it has, but I keep on forgetting, because I just call them Ethereal Pillars, mass pillars, blood pillars, and normal pillars. So each respective type. So yeah. Pillar of Soul. There you go. But yeah, I start here just so we have to, you know, we're able to get through here fast before while there's not much winter Chimera around spawning, and we're just getting through here fast as possible. Because these things can be pretty nasty with the reduced like the teleporter radius actually affects these things as well, so you have to be like sticking right next to them. And sure, you can like sit on top of them or on the lip of like that little lip, you know, that's between the actual pillar itself that's sinking down and the base of it. You can actually sit on that to avoid the winter really the little winter chimera's AoE fire death effect, where you know they spawn a little fire AoE damage area on the ground. You're able to stand on either the lip of the pillar base or the pillar itself if it's low enough so while you stand on top of it to avoid the fire damage. But yeah, this area is very dangerous because with the reduced radius of the pillars, you have to sit closer to it, and the Walker Chimera, and you know the fire AoE Chimera as we said before, and the flying Chimera with the minigun attack can really make this thing horrible because you can't move that far, especially for Pillar of Soul, because if you do get out of the radius, it regresses in progress. So yeah. Now Great Sears Glasses proc overall, so I prefer to go counterclockwise because very often I prefer to go around the blood pillar when I have to do it, and also barely almost die there because blood pillar takes your health. Very dangerous if you are in an active fight. But yeah, I just tend to go counterclockwise. This counterclockwise is because I want to get the soul pillar and the blood pillar done while there's not many elites around, so I don't have to deal with them while doing the pillar because they can be pretty bad if you have to deal with the elite on the side. But the other two pillars are not nearly so bad. Like they're a little bit annoying. And normal pillar isn't that bad because it's a normal teleporter event essentially. Pillar mass you have to jump while it shoots out shockwaves, otherwise you can get pushed back, which can be bad if you get pushed off a cliff and you have no way to avoid fall damage. But besides that though, I think just getting the pillars of the soul and blood done as fast as possible is just kind of a good thing. Just so you don't have to stay here as long as possible and, you know, get them done before anything horrible spawns. Now I think red item for a goat hoof. I don't think that's good, chat. Good viewers. Like for some reason I saw I was streaming for a second. Just call everyone chat. So hey. Wonderful. The brain rot has started to fade into yeah, tonight's recording. So yeah, hope y'all enjoy that. But yeah, here right now we're just jumping up and around this pillar while I get some fertility ritual. So if y'all love that, then you're gonna love this pillar. And I kind of love this pillar over the other pillar because you know you saw two pillars of design. The reason I came over here is because you see that giant wall in the middle of the workshop area, I guess is the best way to put it, that wall right in front of me. And you see that there's a walker winter construct behind it. He can't get to me because for some reason that wall right there causes their pathfinding to have a panic attack, and they can't effectively get to me. So just being able to stagger out their movement path, you know, making sure you don't immediately rush me and all that stuff, and make sure you're not actively shooting me even though they're so spawned, you know, which helps stop further spawns a little bit. It just makes everything a lot easier because, you know, like 50% of the time, the stuff that's going to spawn isn't going to really easily attack you. So, or at the very least, it has to go around the wall before it can. So, this helps a lot. We accidentally took a little energy ball from a flying Chimera, which isn't great, but given we already have still have 1,454 health, I say it's pretty fine, manageable. Like it's a shame it happened, but it's still manageable. And Pillar Mass, it's just a standard teleport event, so it's pretty solid and easy to do. Unless like 5 with a small orb winter Chimera spawn and just charge you and burn the entire area underneath you, you're gonna be relatively fine. Because those AoEs hurt, and yeah. Also, another thing, thanks to the Warva, or Dios if you got the non-void version of it, the turrets come back to life after death. So not only do we have an extra charge thanks to Weiss.cell, our turrets come back to life, so you can rely on them staying alive for a lot longer. So, yeah. Yeah, these turrets are pretty tanky, and they also have armor plating, so... Which doesn't really help them much right now, because everything kind of scaled way past them, because... 5 damage off every hit is quite a lot first to state, like, the first whoop, but... Even after, like, the second half of the first whoop, it starts... One stack of it tends to start to be less and less effective. So... But yeah, our turrets are pretty tanky with the Bios, Transcendence, and this... being so fast and being able to move around. Now we are on to Mithrix. You always love looking down afterwards after you jump up, because very often, like when I look down, you see a bunch of like the winter, roly-poly winter chimera just shooting a barrage of fire at like projectiles after you. It's just very interesting to see. But yeah, it's kind of fun to look down while you head up. And here we have Mithrix. So. You may notice he is very fast, and you're right, he is very fast, so very often the best solution I have for this is simply just try and dodge, and when you can, use your harpoons and mines to do damage to him, and use your turrets and meat shields. And aggro, you know, take his aggro, essentially. Because he'll go after you, he's programmed to go after you from what I can tell, over other targets. But he will go after a turret sometimes, so... Like, 75% of his attacks will be against you, but like 25% of his attacks will be against turrets or other targets half the time, so... Like, he's a little bit indecisive about who he targets, but... Having the turrets go after, take the hits for you, even like a fraction of time is still pretty good, because that overhead swing, for example, can easily one-shot you. It hits like a truck. That overhead slam with his hammer... Terrifying. Avoid at all costs. And that's why it's always good to kind of just stay moving on all times. So at the very least, when he tries to do the swing, you have enough momentum to hopefully constantly move away from it. Because, you know, if you sit still, and then you get stuck from the cripple effect, because he's able to inflict the crippled effect status effect on you, he slows you down, then he does overhead slam and kills you instantly. Or kills the turrets instantly, so yeah, pretty bad. And then his shard attack also, his range shard attack can be pretty dangerous, so you gotta be careful about that. But as long as you constantly move, you're gonna be relatively fine. But it's more about his movement speed and attack speed and all that stuff that is increased from Eclipse that you should worry about. Especially the movement speed, he will run you over. He is very fast in Eclipse, so that's why you need a lot of movement items on Engineer, because since you have no movement abilities of your own, you have to solely rely on movement speed and not get pulverized by Mithrix because he's so much faster than you without good movement items, so yeah. Winter Chimera Horde of Many is pretty easy overall, as long as you have decent damage, just able to deal with stuff, you're in pretty good shape. You can't one-shot them because they're technically the boss, and you can't one-shot bosses with Seer's Glasses, but since they're a Horde of Many, the armor-piercing rounds are pretty good, so got a perfect mix where we're very good against regular enemies and very good against bosses. And now we're on to the third phase of the Mithrix fight. So he's going to spawn Winter Chimera occasionally, and whenever they get hit, since they're not technically the boss, they have a chance to get Seer's Glasses and just die instantly. And Mithrix is overall is way more terrifying. The shockwaves are way more, you know, he does shockwaves every single time he does an overhead slam. He will use that damaging pillar after his slam, and he's just way more aggressive, way more dangerous, and he goes after you a lot. And now here comes the premier attack of this fight, the Fire Wave attack. I highly advise you to simply just dodge and just worry about that mostly. Unless you feel very confident that your movement speed can... You know, unless your movement speed is so good that you're able to simply attack and dodge at the same time. But focus on dodging, because like the overhead swing, the Fire Wave attack can be pretty bad. And fun fact, from what I can tell, from, you know, independent, you know, testing all that stuff while playing the game and runs and all that stuff, the closer he is to you while you do the Fire Wave attack, there's the one shot. But we're saved by Marva. The closer he is, as I was saying, the closer to he is when he initiates the fire wave attack. The slower the, slower the rotation of the fire waves are actually go. So, the far away he is from you when he initiates that attack, the faster they rotate around him. So it's actually very advisable to get close to him and then back off really fast, or get close to him so you're able to dodge him a lot better, because it's a lot easier to dodge slow moving fire waves than the faster moving ones. So usually you just want to get close to him, then let him do the attack, then back away a little bit so you don't get instantly shredded. But yeah, there we go. But yeah, and also the little ledges I'm staying on right now, that's not a safe area from the fire wave attacks. He will still hit you up there, so that's kind of the main problem, where you can't just simply camp up here to avoid a fire wave attack. He'll still hit you all the way up there. It essentially has infinite height in terms of how far it can damage you. So you just need to dodge it. Now, the greatest thing about Mithrix during this phase is, unless he has an item, say the Solus Probe item, or some other item to push you off of this ledge somehow, and you can just use harpoons and just take him down bit by bit. Unless he has some item he took from you that allows him to push you off, he can never do anything to you here, and you just take your time. And since harpoons are heat-seeking and is overall great damage dealers, you can just do pretty well against them. But yeah, you need to be careful, of course, if he has gas wing and he kills one of your drones next to you, or he has ceremonial daggers, obvious stuff like that. So in those situations, it may be best to stay away from drones in case he kills them. But as of his current moment and this run, just there's nothing he can really do against me, because I'm just able to pick away from him and pick away his health and just not worry about retaliation, because by the time he tries to shoot me, I'm already behind cover. So yeah, there you go. Run done. Oh, not technically, but the final boss is done. And now it's on to the escape sequence. So the moon will start exploding, and the little explosions you see will inflict, crippled, which will slow your movement speed down. And the time limit is not that strenuous. So long as you have a decent build and have a few movement items and don't sit in one spot for a minute, so long as you keep on moving and have a decent run and know what you're doing in terms of just taking shortcuts and being a little bit efficient with movement, you're going to get there and you'll be fine. The main thing you have to worry about is the Winter Chimera and the Void Reapers. The Void Reapers are not that big of a deal, because sure, they have the one-shot, on death effect, but their main attack is causing little explosions on the ground, and if you're not on the ground, they can't hurt you, really. Well, they have they're like explosions, so they get hit a little bit off the ground, but as long as you keep on jumping and stay above the ground, yeah, as you see there, they can't really easily hurt you. The problem, though, is Winter Chimera could also spawn. It also watches those two turds just walk into a black hole. There we go. That's the main problem with turds with legs. They do stupid decisions quite often like that, so you gotta be careful of that sometimes. But Winter Chimera are the big problem. You have the roly-poly guys, and you also have the possibility of a Walker Chimera or a Flying Chimera to spawn, and if they spawn as an elite, this could be a big deal, because they hit like trucks and it could easily kill you. So even though this is technically the wind down part of the run, where you just, there you go, there's a flying elite that spawn, or not, a flying Winter Chimera, thank goodness it wasn't elite. But yeah, they can spawn during this phase. So you just need to be careful, because they can do a lot of damage, and yeah, it's just better just constantly move around, and even though it doesn't seem that hectic, just always move around just in case one of those guys spawns and you didn't hear them and they maybe try and kill you. So yeah, order stuff to kill, flying Winter Chimera, or first off, elite Chimera in general, then flying elites, perfected elites, the Winter Chimera that spawned during that whole section. Then the flying Winter Chimera, the Walker Winter Chimera, the little roly-poly Winter Chimera, and the Reaver Chimera, and the Reavers, the Void Reavers at the very bottom. Unless you're able to get a Void Reaver right next to a couple of Wheats or, Winter Chimera, and just use a black hole to take them all down at once, so that could be also very effective. Just a good AoE queer for, good AoE just queer Winter Chimera for basically no cost at you besides just targeting a different enemy for a second or two. And Seer's Glasses also just makes stuff a lot easier to clear out because they're not the boss. They're not technically bosses, so you're able to use Seer's Glasses and one-shot them. So yeah, pretty good. And so he left with newfound inspirations. Yeah, I wish I was a little more inspired to do this run because this run was very hectic to do because, in combination with no movement items half the time with my runs and just bad luck. It's just, yeah, this was pretty bad. Like, I think two runs I did before this, 2 runs I recorded before this run. I got all the way up to Mithrix, and I died at the very last minute from the fire wave attack because I just got unlucky and I just didn't have enough moon speed to effectively dodge fire wave attack. So it was my mistake at the end. Like, yeah, it was completely my fault. But like, if I had a little bit more moon speed, I would have gotten a little bit more successful. So yeah, unfortunately, that's kind of what happened. Past two runs I got really close. So thankfully, the 3rd run we got to Mithrix. This one we succeeded. So there we go. So there's a run. So I hope you all enjoyed the run, enjoyed my commentary over it. And yeah, hope you enjoyed that. Again, I hope to hopefully kind of work out my schedule and just work that stuff out. So I'm not sure next 2 weeks or so, but hopefully within a week or so, I'll be able to get all that sorted and college stuff will be fine and all that good stuff. So again, hope you have a good rest of the night, everyone, or day depending on your time zone and when you're currently watching this. And hopefully you gain some informational and entertainment value out of this. So, again, hope you all enjoyed. Appreciate you stopping by. It is currently 5:30 in the morning. I am tired. And, yeah, hope you all have a great night, everyone. Or day, depending on time zone again. And, yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time. I stream on Twitch, so I do Blender art and, like Blender animation, 3D animation stuff. I do this game, and I do quite a few other things I just enjoy. So if you're interested in Twitch for some reason, even though it's a cesspool, go right over there, and if you find entertainment out of that, wonderful. So yeah, that's all. And hope you have a great night, everyone. Appreciate you stopping by, and see you next video, and hope you enjoyed. So yeah, good night, everyone. Ciao.